Welcome to the history of Black History Month. Black History Month is a time to remember, reflect, and celebrate the many contributions Black people have made throughout American history. It honors all Black people from all periods of United States history, from the enslaved people first brought over from Africa in the early 17th century, to African Americans living in the United States today. The story of Black History Month begins in Chicago during the summer of 1915. Carter G. Woodson, an alumnus of the University of Chicago, who had many friends in the city, traveled from Washington, D.C. to participate in a national celebration of the 50th anniversary of emancipation, sponsored by the state of Illinois. Woodson, a Harvard-educated historian, was the son of a former slave and was the second Black American to earn a Ph.D. from Harvard. He was dedicated to celebrating the historic contributions of Black people in America and formed the Association for Negro Life and History 50 years after the abolishment of slavery in the United States on September 9, 1915. Woodson's fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, were the creators behind, quote, Negro History and Literature Week, end quote, which was originally celebrated in April. The program is said to have been hugely popular on Black college campuses across America. It was Carter G. Woodson, the, quote, father of Black history, end quote, who first set out in 1926 to designate a time to promote and educate people about Black history and culture. On February 7, 1926, Dr. Woodson proposed and launched, quote, Negro History Week, end quote. The second week in February was chosen as a time to celebrate the contributions of African Americans. The week was picked to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Lincoln was influential in the emancipation of slaves, and Douglass, a former slave, was a prominent leader in the abolitionist movement, which fought to end slavery. Negro History Week grew in popularity throughout the following decades, with mayors across the United States endorsing it as a holiday. In 1976, the association that Woodson had founded, later renamed the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, facilitated the widespread institutionalization of February as Black History Month. In an effort to make it official, President Ford named February Black History Month in a commemorative speech on February 10, 1976. When Carter G. Woodson established Negro History Week in 1926, he realized the importance of providing a theme to focus the attention of the public. The intention has never been to dictate or limit the exploration of the Black experience, but to bring to the public's attention important developments that merit emphasis. Black History Month's 2023 theme is Black Resistance. Historically, Black people have worked the political angle to seek their rightful space in the country. Where race is concerned, legislative or judicial action to deal with controversial issues has often come late. The historic executive orders 8802 and 9346 were responses to A. Philip Randolph and the All-Black March on Washington movement's threat to lead a 50,000-strong Black workers' march into Washington, D.C. Executive Order 8802 was signed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt on June 25, 1941, to protect ethnic or racial discrimination in the nation's defense industry. Executive Order 9346 amended 8802 to include the establishment of the Fair Employment Practice Committee, and was signed by President Roosevelt on May 27, 1943. All three of the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act were concessions to the civil rights and Black Power movements. Every advance, improvement in quality of life, and access to the levers of power to determine the destiny of Black Americans has been achieved through struggle. John Lewis advised, quote, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble." By resisting, Black people have achieved triumphs, successes, and progress, as seen in the end of chattel slavery, dismantling of Jim and Jane Crow segregation in the South, increased political representation at all levels of government, desegregation of educational institutions, the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the opening of the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History in D.C., and increased and diverse representation of Black experiences in media. Black resistance strategies have served as a model for every other social movement in the country. Thus, the legacy and importance of these actions cannot be understated. What do the colors of Black History Month mean? According to a book published by the Universal Negro Improvement Association, a Black fraternal organization founded in 1914 by Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican immigrant to the United States, quote, "Red is the color of the blood which men must shed for their redemption and liberty. Black is the color of the noble and distinguished race to which we belong. Green is the color of the luxuriant vegetation of our motherland."